In this video, I'm going to ramble off about some spoilers from Adventure Time Distant Lands. So if you haven't checked out the BMO episode yet, go do that somehow. I would recommend that you buy HBO Max and you check it out, but I know not everybody's going to do that. But if they get to see the numbers on HBO Max, that's how they'll know to make more of these if they're planning to. And also because I love Adventure Time so much, I kind of ramble for a very long time in this video. So probably not going to be too much like visual editing here. Just going to be a few still frames from the episode, not really synced to the audio or anything, so you can just like leave this open in a tab or whatever. Anyways, starting now, some spoilers will happen. So I just finished watching the episode a few minutes ago. I couldn't watch it the day of release because my Wi-Fi wasn't working, because, you know, the universe just knew that I had something to do, so it didn't let me watch it. But now I finished it up, and I'm so in love with it. Usually episodes focused on BMO, aren't really my favorite. He's cute, but there's never really... I don't know, just the morals and stuff of them. They're not the deepest stuff in the show. It's not what I prefer to see from the show. But this episode was a totally different case because it was surprisingly lore heavy. I was really on the fence about whether or not they were gonna just make goofy new episodes just so it could seem different from the original series. Like any new viewer could tune in to Distant Lands and be like, "Oh yeah, I vaguely know Adventure Time. I can watch this." And they sort of did do that, but it also mixed in with really good story stuff that fans would recognize. So I'm totally pleasantly surprised by that. Also too, even just the aspect of this being an episode that's entirely focused on Adventure Time's version of outer space is amazing. Because there's only a handful of episodes from the series that have aliens and have other planets and space and stuff, and I've always loved that stuff. On the Lam, the episode that's just focuses on Finn's dad for a little while, that was sort of a disappointment because there wasn't anything majorly revealing about it. It kind of just led into the season finale a bit. People were kind of not really fans of that one, but I loved that one just because of all the cool space stuff we got to see. All such goofy, intricate alien designs all the time. It's so cool. All the storylines with Mars and Jake's shape-shifting dad, all of that stuff is some of my favorite stuff from the whole series. So I was really happy to see that this episode totally went off with that. I guess sort of speaking of that episode, the biggest surprise here, well, I guess there's two big spoilers for this episode, but the one I'm most happy with is the fact that Martin Mertens is in it. Finn's dad is here disguised as some guy named Dr. M, and he's not really given an explanation or anything why he's there, but he's there and he's just being a jerk the way he always is. And the way they present him in a way that they never explicitly say hey, that's Finn's dad. This was Finn's dad the whole time. His mask never breaks and you see his beard or anything like that. That's what I was expecting to see, but they don't do that. They cleverly just I guess the concept of them not being direct with it is clever, but it's so obvious. It's painfully obvious to somebody like me who's obsessed with that character. His voice is barely disguised. They show his skin tone. He's always saying little remarks that are very clearly references to remarks he has in the later episodes. Or, well, later episodes in terms of the timeline. We'll get to that. So I just love that. I loved seeing him. And I guess the only disappointing thing about that is that he's kind of just here and funny. There's not really a big explanation for how he ended up where he did. The biggest question I have lingering from this series is why was Martin in cosmic jail? What did he do to end up in cosmic jail? Obviously, he's illustrated as a bad con artist person, but how did he end up there? We don't have an answer, still. And this episode really doesn't lead us to one either. It just kind of shows him in a new context. Even though his identity is made obvious, the way that they don't explicitly say that that's Martin Mertens, that's Finn's dad, I think is really clever. Because there's people, casual fans and stuff who, might not notice that's what was going on there. So, I loved that. That's another one of those things that Adventure Time always does. They're always so clever about the way they write out these things. That should have been a huge revealing, oh my god, Finn's dad again, no. But instead of doing that, they're just oh, it could be Finn's dad. Do you think it's Finn's dad? He's he's kind of being a deadbeat and a con man. But it is, obviously. The other huge plot twist here is the fact that this was actually a prequel. This episode is showing how BMO ended up meeting Finn and Jake, which is just very cute. Basically, I wasn't even expecting Finn and Jake to show up in any sense in this episode. Maybe they would have been mentioned or something. I remember I got a comment on a video earlier, one of my prediction videos, where somebody said well, if this isn't 1,000 years in the future, then Finn and Jake would be dead and stuff. And I was like, when did they ever say this was that far in the future? And I thought maybe that came out as like a leak or something, but no, it didn't. That person just wasn't correct. So that was a very pleasant surprise. Although again, it's not, not too big of a lore thing. It's just really cute and a really, really interesting surprise. Finn and Jake are literally only there for like 3 seconds with like 3 frames of animation, but like we see that and we automatically understand what we're looking at and what's going on there. And it's just such a cute idea. The other big lore thing, I guess, is this new Hugo guy. He's some totally new character that maybe is related to Mo in a way, and like he's definitely smart and knows robotics and stuff. They sort of hint at him doing something else in the future. Like by the end, him and Olive are just floating aimlessly in space. So I feel like in future specials, if future specials aren't also prequels, that Hugo and Olive will return and be antagonists in some way. But it's still never really explained like what was up with Hugo. Like he goes to the drift and then steals all the resources and stuff and makes this Unity pod. And it's like, what was that pod gonna actually do? I don't, maybe I just missed out. I'm definitely gonna rewatch this like 7 times, but I think he was just kind of evil. There was not really a presented plan for why he was so evil. So I suppose that's something that we'll hopefully and probably most certainly find out later on. And I guess we can talk about Y5. Y5's adorable. She's a very interesting, like, pseudo-Finn style character. And the way, the art style overall was very slightly different. But Y5, the way her eyes were so anime and her expressions and stuff were, like, very much in that sort of anime-esque, almost OKKO-esque style, was a very interesting change. It did feel right at home here, but that's sort of a type of illustration we haven't seen in Adventure Time before. So she was a lot of fun, and I'm kind of unsure if she's going to show up again. I'm interested to see if she does, but it kind of seemed like maybe she wouldn't. I don't really know. So just sort of the way she looked and the way the backgrounds were drawn in a very pastel-y gradient sort of way. And there was a lot of sort of depth of field too, like putting things in the foreground and blurring the background and racking the focus on stuff like that. Yeah, I've used a camera before. I know what I'm talking about. That's kind of stuff we didn't see much of in the actual series. So that's all sort of very slightly new stylistic things here. But overall, it totally feels like Adventure Time. It feels like an evolution of Adventure Time, but then it's revealed that this was actually a prequel episode, and everybody's dazed and confused. And they played us like a damn fiddle. I guess also another thing I didn't mention, which is like a totally vague thing that like only matters to a big fan like me. But the fact that they got the water park prank guy to draw the backstory part that Seago explained, that was hilarious. Because everybody in the fan base kind of despises that episode. I think I literally only ever watched it once, so I don't have the right to have an actual opinion on it. But the fact that they still found his style, like the crew found his style interesting enough to bring him back to do that is cute. And definitely his style is less jarring when it's presented in a very deliberately stylish way like that for a flashback. And during that backstory part, it's shown that a nuclear bomb didn't cause the Earth to have a crater, which is interesting. It looks like there's a big pink electric explosion. And that's a detail that like they wouldn't put there if they're not going to explain it within this season. Hopefully, because that's a totally new piece of lore. Then all that's going to do is confuse us further because we still barely know anything that happened in the Mushroom War other than the fact that it happened. And now we have a different explanation than what we thought for why there's a crater on the planet. I feel like they wouldn't suddenly so specifically focus on that and introduce that if they weren't going to give us an explanation at some point in this season or in another season if they do want to do more. You know, I guess that's just sort of my biggest question here is what the future holds. Are the next few episodes of Distant Lands also going to be prequels? They're doing an AMA on Reddit right now as I record this. It seems like they're saying that only this one's a prequel, but you know, we'll have to wait and see about that. I'm sure the crew's working really hard, and with the whole world situation going on, it's going to be a bit extra time before we see another part of the series. But, you know, when that does happen, hopefully they give it as much promotion as this one, and hopefully it's full of very cute surprises like this one was. Adventure Time's that kind of thing where, like, realistically, this special didn't have anything, like, super, like, crazy, like, oh my god, like, this character died, or, like, this character was this character the whole time, what type of thing. It's just such little things that matter so much, like seeing BMO meet Finn and Jake for the first time. Like, that's so mind-blowing, even though compared to, like, another type of show, you know, you would think like a character death would matter way more or something, but this is the stuff that we find interesting about Adventure Time. And it's great to see that, you know, even though this started development like very shortly after the main series ended, it's good to see that like this just feels perfect. The writing, the slightly new art direction was like totally great. Like everything here was awesome. Really, in particular, there was some awesome cinematography. The shot where Y5 opens her watch hologram thing and then Hugo's shadow is over the map of the drift. I was obsessed with that shot. That's so cool. But anyways, I think that's all I have to ramble about. I didn't expect this recording to be like 15 minutes long, but I guess that happened. That's what happens when I talk about Adventure Time. Now I can actually make videos about it. I totally missed the chance on making videos about it as the series was going, because when I started my YouTube channel, I was also kind of starting college. So whenever an Adventure Time episode would be coming out, I just kind of wouldn't have the time to do it. But I was able to cover the series finale and everybody really liked watching me talk about that. Now all of a sudden Adventure Time's freaking back, so we get to talk about it some more. So of course, if you guys checked out the episode 2, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Go ahead and ask questions or be as speculative and spoilerly as possible. That's what this video is here for. I'm probably going to do a separate video that's like just a review, like an objective, I got my film critic glasses on review that won't have spoilers. So this is just here for me to yell about the spoilers. So I hope you enjoyed it, because I certainly enjoyed it. I wasn't even expecting there to be any lore, and there was. And even if there wasn't, the fact that there was such cool unique alien designs and stuff, and it was perfectly written and paced and very funny, like that would have sold me. But the fact that we had some things in there that are worth spoiling is fantastic. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you're looking forward to whatever the heck comes next from Adventure Time. Thanks for watching, and super special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to know when I post a new video. Be sure to stay tuned for more new videos and live streams. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok to get frequent updates and video clips. And consider supporting me on Patreon for just $2 a month to get some behind the scenes content, like scripts and review notes, and even early videos. Once we get about 20 Patreon supporters, I'll start a Discord server for us to chat.